Hey, you guys, I don't know what the heck happened. I kept poking the button and the thing just would not work. It was like, no. So good morning. Good morning.
Morning.
It's crazy. You have these technicals. It's like you practice and you practice, but so hey, that's all right. We'll get rolling this morning. Got a bunch of people on here. Need to make sure that that everybody is on. We have about 10 people on, so we're going to get rolling pretty good this morning. Our speaker is here, and that's the real thing. Dave, how are you doing this morning?
Very well. How about yourself?
Good. Just want to make sure I could hear you and everybody was there. So glad to see everybody. Glad to see our visitors, and we're going to get rolling this morning. We'll do what we normally do. I'm going to go down the road here, and I'm going to let each and every one of you introduce yourselves. Give us about a minute. I'm going to introduce you according to my screen. Some of you are not on screen. Good, Alex, there you are. I was waiting for somebody else. Zach, I don't see you, Zach, but it doesn't matter. So we'll get rolling. Hey, I'm going to introduce you according to the way I see you on my screen. And I'm going to start with Adele Bush, if you would, please.
Well, good morning, everybody. That was a wake-up call.
Yeah.
My name is Adele Bush, ASB Business Services, LLC. I'm coming to you live from Columbus, Ohio. And we do personalized, customized, and exclusive executive telephone outreach. We also do business research and prospect development. And Columbus, Ohio is just the beginning, because one phone call can connect you with the rest of the world, connect you and your business with the rest of the world. And that's what we love to do for you. And that's what I love to do, period. So please feel free to give me a call. Love to find out about your business and see if telephone outreach is a good fit for you. Adele Bush, ASB Business Services, LLC. Thank you.
Thank you, Adele. And please, when you introduce yourself, please tell us where you're from. Marianne Yates.
I'm Marianne Yates. I own Elder Moves EM Transitions. We help people transition into new locations, including decorating, downsizing, organizing, sorting, and readying the home for resale. Do want to apologize in advance. I have to leave early today. So I just wanted to make sure that you knew that.
Not a problem there. Gerald Cowan.
Hello. I'll stay late to make up for Marianne if you want me to. I spent a long time fixing my hair this morning. I are a lawyer. I'm dangerous. You can't believe a thing I say. I lie often. Many people have accepted my 50% off estate planning offer. I'm not going to be able to keep it much longer. I'm working with a billionaire right now who his plan is such that we're wiping out all of his death taxes through a delayed inheritance trust. I'm not good, but I'm expensive. I don't know what I'm doing, but please tell Rhoda it's her fault.
Okay, there's no way we're going to top that, so we're just going to keep
right.
That's it. That's it. Hey, Kimberly Gilbert, if you would, please.
You know, I knew I was going to be the person following up Gerald. I knew it. I knew it. Hi, everyone. I'm Kim Gilbert. I'm from Fitzwilliam, New Hampshire. My business is Gilbert Business Consulting, and I help small businesses reopen during COVID. So that's the reorganization of their shops or even on the business side, reorganizing what they're doing, what they're selling, what they're providing for services in the light of COVID. I also specialize in CX for small businesses, specifically tradesmen, contractors, builders, those individuals that are in your home fixing and repairing, siding, windows, bathrooms, kitchens, all those fun things. I help smooth out their process with their customers and with their employees. I'm going to put my LinkedIn contact information in the chat. So if anybody would like to contact me, feel free to do that. And thank you for having me.
No problem. Hey, Alex Gray, I see you.
Hi, Alex Gray. I'm in the Indianapolis area, specifically Zionsville, and I own a company called Opine Interactive, and we do website and email hosting.
Alex is one of my favorites. He's short and right to the point. Hey, Zach, if you would, please.
Yes, Zach Fox, just outside of Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm with Edward Jones Investments. We do personalized investments and income strategies.
Good.
We can help
good.
your business and yourself plan for the future.
Thank you so much. Mike.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Mike.
I'm amazed. So
We can see you too.
well, you couldn't for a while, but
No,
I have my technology specialist come in now and then and get me hooked up. So
Your wife?
yes. So indeed. So I'm Mike Chambers. I've been an independent insurance agent for nearly 50 years with Central Insurance Associates. With COVID and the educational situation like it is, I'm very nearly 100% retired. We've been, dealing with, I've got 3 granddaughters in Washington Township schools. And so their parents have all been continuing to work. So my wife and I have been monitoring their education since July. But they're going back to school next week. So I'm on vacation this week. Yeah. So anyway, glad to be here. I haven't been involved for a few months, but I'm back.
Good, Mike. And my name is Keith Rand. I'm with First Quality Printing, and I also take care of this Zoom meeting. And we're going to save David for the last here. I want to take, like we normally do, I'd like to start it off by somebody telling me something interesting about their business or something that's happening. Oh, I forgot Rhoda. Oh, how could I ever forget Rhoda? Hey, Rhoda, good morning.
Good morning. I'm sure it was intentional, Keith.
It was not. There's something wrong with your color too. I don't know what it is, but I think that's part of the reason. You're light for some reason. You're fading.
All right, there. How's that?
I don't know. We'll talk about that. Go ahead, Rhoda.
Rhoda Israelov, owner of Say It For You. We are a team of content writers for the web. So we write what people read when they come to your website. That helps you stay in touch with your constituency and helps you attract new business. We say it for you.
All right, great. All right, so let's just keep it rolling here so we can stay on time, because I know Marianne's got to leave and other people do leave. Hey, this week obviously was an interesting week for America. COVID reared its ugly head, even at the top of our leadership here. Each and every one of us in some way or other way is being impacted by this COVID. If somebody would just give me a minute or two of how possibly COVID is affecting their business and how you're dealing with it, I'd appreciate that. So if you do me a favor, raise your hand and then I'll give you a call. But just give me a minute about how it's affecting your business and then how you're dealing with it. Give me your solutions. Go ahead, Marianne.
Well, our market is the hardest hit market in the country. 50% of all of our transitioning is of the age of 65 and over. So we are consistently hit. What we're finding is that the retirement centers are really, really astringent. And I do not think they're getting as many moves in. Even though they're being very hush about it, the reality is that I think that it has impacted us by about 75 to 80%. The other thing that has happened with it is just the amount of precautions that we have to take. Today we have a move. We are accessing the original place through sliding doors, no hallways, no entrance into the facility. The next facility, we're entering through a side door. And we have masks, gloves, pre-temperature taking, and sanitation before. We are only allowed 24 hours. Whereas before we used to be able to have 3 to 4 days to set somebody up if we needed to. We are allowed 24 hours. After that, None of the family will be allowed to visit the couple, and we will not be allowed in there.
Wow, that's a kind of a difficult situation. Obviously, that's going to affect your revenue stream downstream and currently. Somebody else bring me up to date on how this COVID situation, how you're handling, and how it's affecting your business. Big Mike.
Hey, Keith. I think, we different phases of our business, our personal insurance, auto and home and stuff, it's not been affected all that much. Where we're going to see it is in our commercial lines, our business stuff, because people pay their liability premiums are based on annual sales. Sales are down. So, their revenues are down. So their premiums are going to be down, which affects us. Workers' compensation based on payrolls are down. So those things usually take a year to hit us. So, you'll pay your premium based on whatever you think your estimated sales and payrolls are. But then there's an audit at the end of the year. And the audit is where it's going to get us, because we're going to be giving money back. So we don't like to do that.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say, you're an insurance company. You want to take everything you can.
So when that happens, we may close our doors just before those checks are written.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Probably not.
Not a problem. Hey, Alex, give me just a little inside look at COVID and how we think it's affecting the mass markets. And then if there's a personal one, you might want to give us a little bit of talk on that.
Well, I think, from a mass market standpoint, it's obviously impacting employment still. And it's mainly hitting obviously the service industry is very hard, which unfortunately hits those in, lower income brackets very hard. So that's really from a mass standpoint, I think that's the most difficult thing. Because, most people, middle and up, they're still working, they're just working from home. And these service markets are getting killed. The restaurants are getting killed. Because they won't let them open back up at all. In some areas, Indiana's a little different. Indiana's been a little bit more respectful to its businesses in a lot of states. But so from that standpoint, yeah, it's tough for some people. It's not as tough for others, no doubt.
Yeah.
On the wider market standpoint, obviously the markets are back. The markets kind of past COVID. They're looking past COVID already. And we see therapeutics coming out. We see the vaccines are looking like they're going to be somewhat successful anyway. So markets are saying, okay, COVID's kind of solved in a way. Now, if we get some bad news on therapeutics or vaccines, and look out below. But I think the markets have already looked past that piece of it. And personally, it was difficult in March and April for me. As many of you know, I do a lot of equity investments, and that was a difficult period because everything got hit regardless. But a lot of that's come back pretty strong. But there's still industries out there. The oil industry's reeling and probably will for some time. It's probably been one of the hardest hit industries in America anyway, and will continue to be for some time. $40 oil is just not enough to make money, good money anyway. They can probably break even. So that's what I'm seeing anyway.
Okay. That's not a problem.
And the retail industry also is retail industry can't be left out. They've been hit very hard. Most of the malls are open back up now, and they are seeing good traffic. So the mall is not obsolete yet. People are coming back.
Yeah, that mall situation is a little bit unique. Some of these retailers, JCPenney's, etc., they were dead men walking. They only exist to service death. So when they couldn't service it anymore, then they died the appropriate death. So we could talk we could schedule something and talk how that process works. Anybody else got something to add here that they want to talk about? Mary Ann.
I just have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
They're talking now that 140,000 people will be without rental money come January in Indianapolis and Indiana.
Yeah, Marion County, Indiana.
Zach, I was wondering with Zach, what that means for the housing market and for builders.
You mean John Vanderstall?
John.
John's not on.
Oh, no. Well, I thought Zach might be able to answer that too, just because he's in the
He
bank.
might. He looks smart.
He looks smart. He looks very smart. I don't think he
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be big impact for investors, obviously. You know, how to recoup those costs is kind of beyond me, but, you know, obviously it's going to affect everybody because those rent payments aren't coming in like you're talking about. So people have to you know, how they're going about creating income in that realm. So
Yeah, I don't, and that's not just on the personal level. That's also in the commercial area too. I don't know how you get back deferred rent at $30,000 a month. It's like, oh, we'll tack it on to the end of the lease. Well, no, that's not going to happen. If you didn't have the 30 in month A, you're not going to have 60 in month Z. That's, I don't know how it handles itself. Marianne, you brought up a really, really good point. You know, we don't talk a lot about it on this particular venue, but you know, the social implications of 1 million people countrywide who don't have a fallback position in terms of their housing is going to exacerbate everything. It'll exacerbate public services. It's going to exacerbate the housing markets are being affected, et cetera. You know, once again, we can just spend hours and hours talking about those things. But this COVID has really, really changed things. We got about 2 more minutes, then I'm going to bring Mr. Garrison on. Is anybody else? Kimberly, you're way up in God's country. Give us just a minute and talk to us about your COVID process and experience, and then how you're handling it.
Sure. I have something a little bit more pedestrian, smaller locally. So
Okay.
our chambers of commerce have completely shut down, and that is my main avenue to get to my businesses locally, to contact them. So I've taken it upon myself to individually contact every chamber member, because I can't get the chamber to even send an email for me, just to invite people to I have a COVID clinic I offer on Tuesdays for people to come and ask questions about, you know, the issues they might have, reopening, reorganizing, dealing with COVID. Maybe they just even need a sounding board for their ideas, or just someone to listen to the issues that are going on. I can't even get that information out there that I'm offering it. So this is how closed down we are up here. It's actually gotten worse, and I was hoping it would get at least better with information transfers, but they're not even doing Zoom meetings or answering the phone. It's ridiculous. So I've had to contact individual businesses, which is a little bit time consuming, but I'm okay with that. As long as I can reach out to my clients, that's fine. But it's really not doing great up here, and the restaurants are dying. The service industries are doing very well. The home improvement people are doing very well. They're at the other end of the spectrum. They're so busy they don't know what to do with all the work. But the restaurants are just dying. All the little shops that we have on Main Street, they're closed up. They're not opening again. So it's not good news. That's why I didn't want to really say a whole lot, because I really don't have any good news to put out there, and it's unfortunate.
You're hanging in there. That's good news. So
Trying.
you know, obviously we can go through these tales of woe, but I want to also focus on the success. We're all here today, at least. Now next week, Gerald will be putting us in a grave somewhere and getting our estate for our great grandkids and grandkids who are going to spend up all what little money, and I mean little money, I'm going to leave them, Gerald. But give us a minute, Gerald. Go ahead.
People are dying to get to me. Some people are cooling to room temperature. People asked me, when should I get my will written? And I said, before you die. He said, what's that? I said, I don't know, maybe you ought to do it today. And please refer every one of your billionaire friends to me. and I'll show them how to wipe out their death taxes.
Not a problem. With that, I hate to do this to you, David, but unfortunately, you're going to have to follow Gerald. If you will go ahead, we're keeping us right on target here. Our speaker today will be David Garrison, and I'll let him do his own intro. And it's now the David Garrison show. I'm sorry I did that to you, David. I didn't think about that. So if you would, please.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm Dave Garrison. I'm a loan originator with Mutual of Omaha Mortgage. And I was in attendance last week and heard a little story about how long this group has been in existence. I heard from since 1981. And it reminded me of a little story that I can tell you about Rhoda, because she's my sponsor here. And we ran into each other, I don't know, earlier this year at a Financial Planners Association meeting. And Rhoda and I met back in probably the early-ish to mid-'80s ourselves. She was a she was a writer for the Indianapolis Business Journal, which was one of my opinion, the preeminent business journals in the country. And she wrote on financial matters, and I had followed her for a number of years. And kind of a family situation occurred to my reaching out to her. My father-in-law passed and left her with an absolute hodgepodge of investments that she didn't have the foggiest clue how to manage. So Rhoda seemed like a good outreach to me. So Rhoda managed my mother-in-law's, and for a time, some of my investments way back in the 1980s. So we haven't been close here much recently until this year, but we've known each other a long, long time. She's a player in this business, as you all know, right? I don't know how much you really want to know about me. I'm a baby boomer, grew up in the 60s and 70s, went to the University of Wisconsin. And I wasn't all that serious a student. I would say I was more worried about the Vietnam War and what it was doing to us than being a student. But I accidentally got into my lifelong career, really, this same situation with my father-in-law's passing. My mother-in-law sort of inherited a family industrial business that she had no expertise in running, nor did I. But I was sort of the last gasp effort, and went to work for that business, and we ended up having another 35-year run in a family business. We were an industrial equipment distributor, so that to most people, what does that mean? So we sold things like paint booths and spray equipment, pumping equipment to factories. So my lifelong gig was in sales, and really I managed the company for most of its period of time. The business that I'm in today, and I guess what we're going to talk about today is in the reverse mortgage business. And I had kind of a serendipitous route to it that may be of some value to you. Most of my time, frankly, is spent as an educator in this business. I spend most of my time in front of financial planners, financial advisors, wealth advisors, to some extent real estate agents, but more often than not, I educate financial planners about some of the aspects of the reverse mortgage business. You all, I'm sure, will recognize Mutual of Omaha as an iconic, 100-year-old U.S. brand, and who recently purchased a company used to be called Retirement Funding Solutions, and they viewed that this housing equity reverse mortgage business aligned very well with their existing clientele, who is typically 62 years of age and older, and that are already buying their medical supplement, long-term care insurance, disability insurance, life insurance. So for Mutual of Omaha, it was also more of an investment hedge on some of their other activities. So it's very well aligned with their business. At the expense of going too deep into the weeds, the reverse mortgage business, some of you may recognize as instituted back in the 80s by our President Ronald Reagan. It was a program put into place that allowed seniors the access to the equity in their home in order to do something. For many of them, initially, it was more of a needs-based business where they were in retirement and Social Security, and it wasn't enough to continue to cash flow their lifestyle. So, and my own mother took out a reverse mortgage back in the 80s after my father had died. So I had some familiarity with it. long time ago. Today, the reverse mortgage business has more morphed into a strategic alliance with financial planners that are uncovering ways that housing wealth can be used to accomplish a whole variety of strategies. And they might be things like long-term care insurance affordability, or simply creating a big pot of tax-free money that can be used to pay for long-term care expenses. Might be used strategically to wait for full retirement age at age 70 and delay Social Security benefit inception. It might be used simply as a cash flow tool to eliminate a forward mortgage. And in retirement, I think we've got a lot of folks that are not at that point yet, but they may have parents that may be facing these kinds of situations. But in retirement, obviously, cash is king, and elimination of debt obligations is important. So reverse mortgage can be used to do that. It can be used to eliminate a forward mortgage payment and create a cash flow improvement. Reverse mortgages can also be used, and in my case, we'll say, for example, this is kind of how I got into this business really, is in my case, it created another cash-like buffer asset that allows me to mitigate adverse sequence of returns risk. That's a fancy word for saying stock market is your friend when you're acquiring assets and saving for the long term. When you're taking assets out of your portfolio and distributions, it's not your friend. Market is not your friend, because early negative returns in a portfolio distribution phase can cause serious sustainability problems with your portfolio. So that's really how I got into the business. And my financial advisor and I had created a plan back in 2007, really back at the pits of the last recession, that I was going to sell the business and retire in 10 years. So that would have been 2017, which I ultimately did, sell the business, retire at that time. And the only concerns that I really ever expressed in my investment thoughts were, what if I'm the unlucky guy that retire into the next recession? So I mean, I planned 10 years out, and we had obviously been at the beginning then of a long expansion, which was still going on in 2017. But you know that expansion hasn't really stopped yet, but it's going to stop one of these days. And so my concern was, what do I do if, when I retire, if my portfolio I think is going to be X and it's 0.6X? Obviously, your retirement horizon shortens, or you have to start spending less money. And my plan when I retired was to get into the mortgage business, although at the time it was really going to be more in the conventional forward business. And as I was doing the licensing for the loan originator position that I have, this topic of reverse mortgages came up. And the idea that it was being used more in a strategic, coordinated manner with other retirement planning activities, it was really appealing to me, because it really, to me, answered that question of how I could use my housing wealth to mitigate adverse sequence of returns risk. And when I brought it up to my investment advisor, I said, I'm thinking about kind of morphing this mortgage career away from this really highly commoditized forward business. Everybody does the same thing, and there's not a whole lot of differentiation available. I'm thinking about this reverse mortgage thing, partly because it would be more interest to me personally in my career, but also it could answer the question that I had about this adverse sequence of returns risk. And the only other thing that in my discussions with my advisor was, why don't we talk about housing wealth in our retirement? My home, it was paid off by the time I was 57, and this big, huge asset just sitting on the sidelines, market sensitive, illiquid, and really doesn't perform for you as an asset. And I'm afraid that many investment advisors, if not the majority of them, have a similar interpretation of the housing asset. It's shown on your balance sheet, but there's sort of a murkiness about what's going to be done with it. Maybe when you need to go to a nursing home, we'll sell it, or we'll deal with it after you've lost after you've spent all of your other money, which it turns out with the new doctoral research that's going on is the absolute last method to use this housing wealth sensibly. It got me into this reverse mortgage business. My advisor and I kicked the idea around for a couple of months, and he ended up getting invited to a dinner webinar or dinner seminar with one of the doctoral educators from the American College of Financial Services. And once he realized that the thinking from the experts in the retirement income field was supporting this use, he had quickly adopted this. I went ahead and took out a reverse mortgage, my own home, and he's now a referral partner with mine. I really am in this business partly because of a personal experience, as well as it makes sense to me when the average American, we'll call them mass affluent, the majority of their wealth is in their homes and not in their investment portfolios. The quantifying who this might be of value to, obviously it can be from anyone whose portfolio is from nothing. In my view, probably up into the $4 or $5 million portfolio size. Beyond that, it's probably just a rounding error. But if you can protect your portfolio from a half a dozen years of bad returns in a 30-year investment horizon, you go from having a portfolio of zero out in the later years to having a portfolio that's multiples of what one would expect. So it's a sound investment strategy, coordinated with an advisor in their other activities in retirement income planning. An example for you, if you're interested, so we have a younger demographic amongst some of you all here, but all of you have probably parents who are very least baby boomers themselves, or are maybe in retirement or coming close to retirement. And in my view, the responsibility, if an adult or a parent has not saved wisely, that burden will fall on the children at some point. So whether you're all here in the 62-year-old demographic or not, there are going to be circumstances where your parents may have some value in understanding this. But some examples of who would do this. Again, it's no longer is it the cash poor retiree who's just looking to buy groceries. There are certainly still some of those there, but today examples might be more like, I had a client last year who had a nice home up on Geist. It was a $400,000 home on Geist. He and his wife loved to travel. They were civil servants, had good pensions, good Social Security, and had a reasonable portfolio, but they liked to travel. They had a timeshare in Hawaii. They spent 3 or 4 months in Florida, and they wanted to buy a home in Florida. And their investment advisor, who happens to be mine, said, "You guys can't afford, you'll deplete your assets too quick. You can't afford to buy a home in Florida." And then the conversation turned to, because these folks still did have a conventional mortgage on their Geist home, we eliminated their mortgage on their Geist home, refinanced it into a reverse mortgage, eliminated their monthly payments, which freed up the cash flow required to make mortgage payments on a home in Florida. So there would be an example. Another example might be recently I did that a retired educator and his wife at the direction of their CPA at Wealth Advisor came to me, and he had advised them to finance their conventional mortgage into a reverse mortgage, primarily to create a buffer asset. So they traded their forward mortgage payment into a reverse mortgage, and they're going to continue to make payments on the mortgage, which you certainly can do. With the benefit, obviously they'll pay their mortgage off in a similar time frame, but by the time they've paid their mortgage off, every dollar that they have paid against their mortgage goes into a line of credit that grows at the same interest rate the mortgage amortizes at. So they're creating an ongoing cash buffer asset out of their existing mortgage payments, which they would not have created had they remained in a forward mortgage. Another one might be, and this one I haven't put closed together yet, but this would be the other end of the spectrum. An old friend that I recently ran into is going to be moving from Oregon to Washington State, and you might call him more the, I don't know, ultra rich would be the right word, but he's going to be buying a $2 million home up in Orcas Island. And when I mentioned to him that you have the ability to buy this home with a reverse mortgage, and he was going to be a cash buyer, So he was going to spend $2 million on a home. With a reverse mortgage, you may finance a portion of that mortgage in the form of a reverse mortgage. And in his case, his down payment would be in the $1 million range rather than 2 million. So he's retaining $1 million of his money to keep in the market. So, you know, there's a spectrum for you of folks that might do this. When I looked at it myself, the dollars and cents were just too compelling for me to resist. And you know, one of what you all know about reverse mortgages, that most of what the common truisms are not true. The bank doesn't get the home. The bank is a lien holder on the home, just like it would be if you had a conventional mortgage. You never have to make payments on them. Never have to leave the home. You never leave title of the home. So in today's generation, this is becoming more and more critical and will continue to be more and more critical. The idea that we're utilizing housing wealth to do something for us while we're alive, instead of maybe blindly passing it on to our heirs if the home is of any value at some point in retirement. So that's a kind of a little explanation of who I am, how I got where I am, what I'm doing.
Dave, so a couple of quick questions. I'm glad Gerald is on, because I had some thoughts on this myself. I'm one of those potential people who are looking at options, house paid off, et cetera, et cetera. Gerald, from asset management on the legal side, is there an issue with these kinds of mortgages? Do you see issues in your practice, or do you go, Keith, hey, that's something you shouldn't even worry about. Go take a nap and comb your own hair, right?
I refuse to comb my hair.
We know that. We know that.
I just have a question for David. Would you please refer that guy who's buying that big house to me so I can wipe out his death taxes?
I will. Put your information in the chat box. I will. I mean, he's one of those guys who's never had an investment advisor his whole life. He made a lot of money selling his business years ago, and he's multiplied it by staying in hedge funds. But I suspect he doesn't have that kind of legal advice. So yeah.
If you tell me where he is, I'll fly out there.
I'll bet.
Keith.
Yes, sir.
The answer to your question is I don't know.
Okay.
No, I would just say I see no difficulty with a reverse mortgage. If it fits your situation, it could work quite nicely. And I'm scoring brownie points with David.
Yeah, no problem.
I'll get with you after the call here. Thank you.
Yeah. Because I think, David, a lot of people are scared, like, oh, my house will get taken.
Sure.
Oh,
exactly.
you know, because we've heard a lot of negatives.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I think you're right. As the value of housing, the differential in terms of the value of housing and keeping that economic wealth locked up, I think now strategically, you've got to look at, if an opportunity comes along and you can do it, you got to look at how you can unlock that wealth.
Exactly.
I don't know, but I think all of us who are in that particular age bracket and have access to assets, we're going to have to think this through. We're going to have to really start thinking it through. You know, you got a $300,000 or $400,000 house. Like, you can leave it to your kids if you want to. I'm spending my money.
Well, and actually, the strategy that I use, it's going to ensure that, you know, if my home is the apple tree and my wealth is the apple orchard, so what if my apple tree is smaller? The apple orchard is going to be bigger. So whether your home's really worth anything or not, at the end, your net overall wealth will be enhanced by having taken advantage of this strategy. And that one I should mention, because you mentioned one of the most common truisms of a reverse mortgage: the bank gets the home when you're done. Completely untrue. The bank has a lien on your home just like it does a forward mortgage. The beauty of the reverse mortgage is they're called non-recourse mortgages. So by virtue of part of the closing costs and part of the ongoing costs are paying an insurance premium into the mortgage insurance premium fund. The home is the sole satisfaction of any debt. So 20 years out, your home is worth, just pick a number, $500,000. The debt's worth $750,000. The lender gets the deficiency from the mortgage insurance premium fund. It is not a debt to the estate. Conversely, twist the numbers around. The home is worth $750,000. The debt is $500,000. The heirs get all of the equity, all of the surplus equity. So it's a protection for that borrower, and it's not an inexpensive protection, but it's what makes the program work, and is really vitally important to this whole reverse mortgage idea.
Not a problem. Adele, you were raising your hand.
Just a quick question before I leave, Mr. Garrison. First of all, it's good to be on a meeting where the majority of the people are baby boomers or Gen Xers. A lot of times it's mostly millennials, and I'm sometimes the only boomer. David, is a reverse mortgage a form of refinancing?
Yes, yes, it is. Yeah, we would call it a reverse mortgage refinance. So, well, yes, if you've got debt on the home, we refinance the existing debt into reverse mortgage. If there is no debt on the home, it's a little bit like a cash out refinance on the forward side. So it is a refinance, yes.
I see. So when the reverse mortgage is paid off, is that the right term? Paid off?
Matures.
Matured. Do we still have the house?
The maturity events in a reverse mortgage are the passing of the second borrower, their selling of the home, which can occur at any time. It's just the mortgage. When you want to sell it, you pay it off. The other maturity events would be you got to still pay your taxes and insurance, and you can't let the house fall down from last time. So
right.
Maturity event is some unknown period in the future. Typically, it's a long-term plan. Usually, the maturity event is death or the departure of the second spouse into a nursing home, and at that point, the debt matures. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, kind of, sort of. So it's probably good to maybe plan that based on what your age and your health and maybe what your future plans are. You know, my husband and I have no plans to downsize right now. We have a home here in the suburbs of Columbus. It's debt-free. We've had it paid for some time. And there's just the two of us here, and we plan to keep the home as long as our children are able to come. We want to have a place for them. But, you know, I told my husband the other night, I said, it's going to be a point in time where we're going to have to probably make some decisions based on our age, based on our health, based on our family situation, and then, you know, progress into the next level, the next season of our lives. So the information you provided today, David, was very helpful, and thank you very much, sir. I've heard about this. We have people here in Columbus that do that, but I've never had a real good explanation, and you did a great job.
Yeah,
thank you, sir.
Rhoda did a blog post for me last week that was on this very topic, or at least one piece of the topic. For many seniors, they would like to stay in their home, but maybe it's not senior friendly. So proceeds from reverse mortgage could be used to provide renovations that made it more senior livable, for example.
Yeah, very good. Well, thank you, sir. I have to leave, and it's good to see everybody.
All righty, Dale, no problem.
Thank you very much.
We have a question from Kimberly. Go ahead and give your question, Kimberly, because I don't think everybody reads the chats.
Okay, sure. I was just wondering what the federal tax implications were for assets that you've encumbered with a reverse mortgage. I know you probably can't break it down by state because it's difficult. Every state is different, but there are federal implications. I was wondering what those might be.
Okay, any payments, reverse mortgage can liberate funds in ways like creating an annuity-like payment comes to you every month for your life or for 5 years or 10 years, or in my case, it puts a pot of money in a line of credit. There are no tax implications on it. Those funds are basically loans to oneself out of one's housing equity, so there are no tax implications. Now, there may be Medicaid implications. Those are also Medicaid-friendly benefits because they are, again, loans to oneself. So as long as any money that comes in to a household from a reverse mortgage benefit is spent the month that it's received. It does not go into the asset pot and does not disturb your Medicaid qualification.
Okay.
Does that
Yeah,
answer your question?
it does. I was concerned about, I want my parents to do this for their house.
Mhm.
And my dad's facing an awful lot of medical bills that they're not able to pay. They don't have the liquidity that they need to pay for some of these medical bills.
Mhm.
And it was something that was floating around in the back of my mind. I just didn't know if they were going to be penalized with the income taxes or however it plays out. I wasn't quite sure how that played out.
No.
So,
Any of you have that particular questions on a situation of your own, don't hesitate to call. Happy to give you a perspective on it.
great, thank you.
Not a problem. Anybody else got any other questions here? Just to remind you guys, this thing will be recorded. We're going to produce it. All of you should have got Kimberly. Kimberly, did you get to see yourself? I sent out an email. You didn't? Oh, you
I'm not gonna watch myself. No way.
Yes, you are. You should do that. So this will be recorded. It gets sent out to everybody that's on this, and of course, all our current Zoom, all our current members. Dave did a bang up job. I think I'm inch by inch listening to these things and thinking about that. Let's be honest. Those of us who are fortunate enough to have a house and then have a situation where we might be able to tap into that equity, we're going to have to think about how that's going to be done. Sitting on, like I say, sitting on 200,000, 300,000, 400,000. I'm not a million like Gerald's friends, but we're going to have to think these things through, and it just needs to become part of your financial strategy. And I think you're right. As long as you and guys like you educate us, I think we're getting less and less scared of what this thing means. So
Sure.
it's been really interesting. Go ahead, David.
The old wisdom used to be, as I kind of alluded to earlier, you don't think about using your housing wealth until you have to, which would mean you run out of money. And FINRA, actually, Zach will know, and those on Rhoda would know, FINRA's position used to be reverse mortgages should only be used in a last case of last resort. A lawyer, educator, financial advisor in California took issue with that and proved to them that was mistaken. That the early inception of a reverse mortgage at the earliest age you can, which would be age 62, and putting that money into that growing line of credit, which, as I mentioned before, it grows at the same rate that the mortgage amortizes at. So currently, the growth rate on a reverse mortgage line of credit is about 3.5% tax-free. So when someone puts a line of credit in place at age 62 and may not need it till age 85 or whatever his long-term care expenses or whatever his need happens to be, the value of that line of credit is enormous by virtue of its compounding. So waiting till the last minute, as the old conventional wisdom was the wrong solution, and FINRA admitted and changed their position. Now they tell you use your housing equity wisely, rather than saying don't do this until it's a last resort.
Okay. So has anybody else got any other questions? We got about a minute here, but Mr. Cowan, go ahead, sir.
I have a comment, and this is serious. Every year our homes appreciate in value. As they appreciate, our margin for a reverse mortgage increases every year.
Yeah, I think those of us who are the 62 and above, once again, we need to be smart about our financial acumen and what we do with our assets. These are tough times, and I just think we have to be realistic about how we don't want to run out of money before we run out of life. It's the basic math, right?
Really?
You need it. So with that said, what I need everybody to do, because Alex always mean mugs me here. So I need everybody to give me a smile because we'll be closing this up. And I like to send this out with a smile. Alex is like, look, this is serious business, people, whenever you talk about money. And he always does this to me. And I watch him doing these things. And he's like, Alex, give me a smile. We're going to be okay, buddy. Appreciate everybody getting on. Sorry about my little technical problem early. Dave did a great job. I'm so happy that we are taking an opportunity at CBN to educate people about options, financial options, life options, etc. Hope you guys can join us. We don't have a speaker for next week. If somebody's got one, just send me a recommendation. If not, we'll think of something and we'll get it out. But with that being said, wow, perfect, 9:30. I will be seeing all you guys. Bye-bye. We'll see you guys at the next meeting. Bye-bye.